So I've been thinking a lot about open world games like Tears of the Kingdom and Genshin Impact recently, and I've been thinking a lot about how these games just exist. I played all kinds of games from childhood to right now. Like, on the Game Boy Advance, I played a lot of Crash Bandicoot, which was hard as hell, and to be honest, I never actually beat it, and I still can't. I also played a ton of games like Kirby and the Amazing Mirror and Donkey Kong Country. Also two games I was never able to beat. Maybe I'm not as much as a gamer as I thought I was. And then I moved on to the PS1, where I played my all-time favorite, Spyro the Dragon. I love this series so much. And then I played this Rayman math game, which, to be honest, is the most annoying game I've played to this day. I could never beat it. So there's two things in common with my childhood games. One, I could never beat them, fantastic. And two, they're all fairly linear. It's either get from the left side of the screen to the right side, or start at the beginning and get to the end. It wasn't until I went back to these games and replayed them that I started to appreciate the work developers put into them. For example, I played on the Wii a ton as a kid. One of the best games ever was Wii Sports Resort. I loved this one. But you know what? I played it again recently, and you start the game by skydiving onto a resort island. And on the left you see some trampoline thing, which turns out to be the sword area. You see a town in front, a volcano in the back. What I'm getting at is that you can tell there's all sorts of things to do on this island. See, that's really interesting, because Nintendo could have just made a game that has a simple menu that takes you to a room where the minigame takes place, but they've added so much more here. There's an interconnected world here that you can actually explore. I never really took that in until recently. I think I really started to notice the detail developers put in back in 2008. I loved Spyro the Dragon, so when I heard there was a reboot, I was literally jumping for joy, begging my parents to buy me the game. It wasn't until later that I realized that this reboot had actually been going on for a while, and the third game, Spyro Dawn of the Dragon, was about to release. I ended up buying this game for the Wii, and man, did it suck. Actually, to be totally honest with you, the game wasn't that bad, it was just the controls, especially on the Wii, that made the game terrible. I couldn't walk 2 steps without Spyro using his wings to shield, and if I moved the controller even slightly, he would just stop and do that. Seriously, I was about to rage quit this game just because of that. But I can't do that to my boy Spyro. I love the originals. So I kept going. The Catacombs was annoying, Twilight Falls was beautiful, great music, but I got stuck on this vine thing for like a week. I'm not even joking. And then finally, I entered the Valley of Avalar. Now this place was sick. See, the thing is, this is the first time ever that you can actually fly freely as Spyro. That's something I'd always wanted from these games. It was super limiting at first, like in the first 2 levels, but in Avalar, it's when it really opened up. You just finish fighting in the Cheetah Village, they set you off to find Meadow, and you're set free to go. It was a sort of freedom in gaming that I had never really experienced before. The area is pretty wide, and you can go pretty much anywhere. It's bright and colorful, there's lots to collect and find, and the music, oh my god. The music you're hearing right now really tied it all together. That area was so great that I wanted more, especially because the mountains in the background made it seem like the world was a lot larger than what the developers let us experience. It was thanks to this game that I now appreciate the world the developers built into their games. The sparkles they add, the swirling skybox, and the other tiny things that really make a world come alive. It just made me want more. Like maybe you guys have experienced this too. It's in a ton of modern games as well, like Rocket League for example. They create a whole world just for their stages, but the players are confined just to the field. Maybe you've been playing Splatoon 3, and you notice the little jellyfish creatures partying it up outside the stages. This guy looks like he's about to fall though. The world of Splatoon looks so interesting, but we see so little of it. Or how about this one? Were you disappointed playing Kingdom Hearts 3 when you realized you couldn't explore Twilight Town fully? Or even other areas like the actual Corona Kingdom? Yeah, me too. Let me in! Let me in! So for me, I was really super excited when Zelda Breath of the Wild was revealed, and it was an open world game. Now I've played a ton of Zelda games from Ocarina of Time to Twilight Princess, and finally, for the first time, you really get to explore Hyrule. This is exactly what I wanted. Now, I get it. This isn't the first open world game ever made, and it might not be the best, but it's the first one I got to experience, and I feel like it's the first one that really innovated on exploration. Climbing. That's it. For the first time ever, you could climb virtually anywhere in the game, and that added so many layers. You're not just following a path anymore, you're going all the way up. And you know what? Ever since then, a ton of games copy what Nintendo has done. Now I'll admit, although climbing is really cool, I feel like Nintendo did strip away a lot of what made Zelda really Zelda to me. Like for example, puzzly dungeons, permanent items like the hookshot, heart pieces, or even a decent story. I guess they were saving that one for the sequel. For that reason, I think Zelda Breath of the Wild is a great game. Just a terrible Zelda game. I really do hope that one day they go back to more traditional Zelda gameplay in some way or another. But that's okay. It's something new, and I was excited to explore Hyrule anyways. Then they announced the sequel. Awesome. I'm sure they will make the game more Zelda-like. In the meantime, I found Genshin Impact. Now, a lot of Nintendo fanboys hate this game and say they just copy Breath of the Wild, which, to be honest, they aren't wrong about, but it's so much more. And besides, if you loved Breath of the Wild, why wouldn't you want more of it? I love everything about this game. The story is fantastic. The gameplay is unique and engaging. It has an awesome elemental battle system. Better than weapon durability in my opinion. And I love the characters especially. They all look super cool. And the world, oh my god, the world is so beautiful. And they constantly update the game. I mean, I could go on and on about why Genshin is great, but maybe that's for another video. Then Tears of the Kingdom finally came out. I was so excited for this one. I started playing, I got through Rito Village, then I went to the Fire Temple, then I started the desert, and then I stopped. I got burnt out. And it got me thinking, why do I never feel like playing Tears of the Kingdom these days? Or as a matter of fact, why am I never playing Genshin Impact these days? Fontaine literally just released. But I am so down to play Splatoon 3, or Sea of Stars, or Psychonauts 2, which are all the games I'm currently into. Between these three open world games, I realized one commonality between them all, and it's what's making me not only disinterested in these games, but open world games in general as long as they don't fix it. Okay, here it is. They all feel kinda empty. Okay, wait, hold on. That can mean a lot of different things. It's just that I really felt it when playing Tears of the Kingdom. Let's talk about the Forgotten Temple in Breath of the Wild, for example. This place was filled with guardians, and you either had to sneak by them, or fight them, or clutch it out with your shield, and then you get a shrine as a reward. It was a fun and dangerous and interesting area. In Tears of the Kingdom, that place is so stripped empty. There's no signs that the guardians were even there to begin with. Now there's just kind of a shrine in the corner, and a pretty anticlimactic ending with just a map of all the glyphs. And the depths, oh my god, the depths are even worse. At first it was really cool, a big scary dark area, something Nintendo never even mentioned until release. But not even 30 minutes down here, and all I'm doing is creating a flying machine to get me from Lightroot to Lightroot. I felt as though there was nothing interesting down here. And on top of that, I'm avoiding enemies to avoid the gloom status, so it's even more boring. That's not to say there aren't things to do in the depths, but getting from place to place where there are things to do is boring and tedious. And this is an issue with all three games. It's just like in the Wind Waker, when you're traveling to island, the islands have a lot of stuff to do, but the actual sailing gets pretty boring pretty fast. Another feeling of emptiness I get is that there feels like there's no NPCs in these games, at least in the world outside of the towns, which make up a big majority of these games. In Breath of the Wild, there's hardly anyone out there, but even when you do see an NPC, 4 out of 5 times they're an annoying Yiga clan member. Like, could you just leave me the hell alone? Tears of the Kingdom's a bit better. Sometimes you see like a Goron walking by, and when you talk to him, he has a really cool new hammer. And sometimes you see a group of NPCs getting ready to fight an enemy camp, and you can join them, which is actually really cool, but for the most part, the world still feels empty. Genshin is like this too. There's hardly any NPCs in the open world. I sure would like to see the Adventurers Guild out and about. Maybe they're like fighting hilly churls or fixing a destroyed place, because there's like countless of them around the world. They get Adventurer Guild commissions, right? So why does it feel like I never actually see them do anything? At the very least, Genshin could utilize their amazing cast of story characters more. I'd love to see Zhao and Liyue fighting enemies to protect the harbor, or Lisa arguing with someone to get a book back in Mondstadt. Or even better, it'd be cool to see Nilou up on stage dancing to a crowd in Sumeru while I'm out exploring. It's just a few things that could really make this world come alive. Speaking of Genshin, maybe more avid fans of the game know of another sort of emptiness within their game. There's a lot of areas in the game where you just don't go to anymore. If you're up to date, when was the last time you went to Dragonspine, or the Chasm, or even Enkanomiya? I sure would love some more events in these places to bring me back. Now, to be honest, I stopped playing because I was playing too much of the same genre all at once. But still, the issue had definitely left a bad taste in my mouth. For Tears of the Kingdom especially, the world is more or less the exact same as Breath of the Wild. I just feel so de-incentivized to explore when I feel like I've already seen it in the previous game. I'm not one to just complain though, well, sometimes anyways. But this time I'd like to share a couple of examples of games that tackle the issue of emptiness really well. There's a lot of future open world games in the works. Palia, for example, has a lot of the same qualities of an open world game, and it's currently an open beta. A recent reveal called Project Mugen is in the works that looks like a lot of other open world games with the qualities of Spider-Man. Maybe these kinds of games can take a few points from these other games I'm about to talk about. The first one is called The Pathless. So this is a really cool indie game that I played recently that's published by Annapurna Interactive. They're the same company that published Stray. They've published actually a lot of great games. Anyways, this game's about an archer who travels to a land to dispel a curse. There's virtually no NPCs in this game. You are practically alone. One of the complaints I had before was that traveling from place to place, like in Wind Waker, was boring. However, The Pathless does something really interesting. In this game, you run really fast. You then shoot targets to keep running fast. This way, the gameplay is all about getting from place to place. It's fast and fun. The movement the player has makes getting from place to place really engaging. Since a lot of the fun comes from traveling around, it doesn't ever feel like just a walking simulator. And unlike the other open world games, everything you collect helps you in some way. Like, you're not going to waste your weapon durability for your 400th Bokoblin Horn, or you're not going to fight your 700th Hilichurl camp for Hilichurl masks unless there's a chest. But in this game, everything you collect either helps you advance the story, or increases your movement in some way. Okay, now let me pivot here for a second to talk about the world itself. The atmosphere is kinda chilly. I always feel this weird cold sensation when I'm playing. It's like a feeling of serenity with how beautiful the world looks, but there's a sense of eeriness that you are alone, fighting this curse and listening to the thoughts of the dead. It's a sense of emptiness and loneliness that I believe the developers wanted you to feel. Okay, now that was a great example, and I love that game a lot. You should definitely check it out. This next and last one, however, is fantastic. It's my favorite game on the Nintendo Switch. It's Xenoblade Chronicles 2. You see, when I first started Breath of the Wild, I knew practically everything this game had to offer. This was because Nintendo, for some reason, decided to show off practically everything in their E3 Direct showcasing this game. So when I finished, I was really yearning for something new, something I didn't know anything about. I ended up playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on a whim, and let me tell you, that was the best decision ever. This game feels so alive. Actually, the entire Xenoblade Chronicles series feels so alive. Okay, let me paint this picture for you. You and your squad are about to enter Gormott, this giant titan. You get to the open area, and there is so much going on. So much that it's almost overwhelming. There are rhino-like creatures eating the grass, deer-like creatures running through the field. There are these bunny creatures hopping along. There's a wolf pack with a giant leader watching over the land. You go a little further, and there's a little lake. Creatures are swimming in it, drinking the water. You look in the sky and there's a giant bird like 50 levels ahead of you that you need to avoid, not to mention the giant gorilla in front of Torrigoth. And there's so much more. And this is just during the daytime too. At night it all looks so beautiful. Everything feels like it's glowing. I mean, just look at the world tree that you see in the distance. And this is just one area too. There are countless other areas that feel just like this in the game. The game takes away the whole aspect of emptiness altogether. I love it so much. And that's it. I could go on and on about these games, but I'll save it for another time. Despite all my complaints, I still think these games are actually pretty great in their own way. For Nintendo especially, I feel like they rarely release just a flat-out bad game. Sort of like how Pixar never releases a bad movie. Well, I guess that's debatable. What are your guys' thoughts on the emptiness of open world games? Was there ever a childhood game you wish you could explore more? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want more, and thank you so much for watching.